Before we get into the video, I wanted to share a special tool that David and I have been using for over 2 years to manage our inventory on Amazon. The tool is called SoStocked, and it is a very powerful tool. It's designed specifically for inventory management. If you're in a physical products business selling on Amazon, you need to be in stock, especially with the inventory restrictions lately. This tool is incredibly powerful. If you're having trouble with inventory management, this might be a tool to help you. SoStocked is partnered with Firing Demand, and they've offered our guests, our listeners, a 30-day free trial. So click the link in the video description to get 30-day free trial. On to the video.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing Demand podcast. On today's episode, we have the pleasure to interview Bridget Hom. Bridget is an incredible mindset coach and motivational speaker who has taken the world by storm. Bridget's journey as an entrepreneur began during a time when countless individuals were seeking reinvention and personal and professional evolution in their lives and businesses. With her deep understanding of the power of mindset, she has become a leading figure in the industry, inspiring and influencing thousands of entrepreneurs and leaders nationwide through her Find Your Freedom programs. Bridget is also an acclaimed author. Her book, Stuck on Ready, skyrocketed to become a bestseller on Amazon within its first month. Very excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. David, Ken, glad we got that right. I'm glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. We're excited as well. So to start things off, can you please share with our listeners a little bit about your background and your path to becoming a motivational speaker and author?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, you just keep empowering that person in front of you, and then all of a sudden other people tell another person, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, can you come speak for this group? Can you come speak for this training, And so it really just always starts with, I say, number one, make your goal to show up well and authentically, and make your number two goal to empower the person in front of you no matter what. And so I would say, authoring a book came out of coaching hundreds of individuals through my Find Your Freedom program, many entrepreneurs who broke out of the employee mindset and adopted the entrepreneur mindset and lifestyle, or people who just have that desire to do business and life on their terms, right? It's definitely an obsessive thing that we have as entrepreneurs, I would say. So that's what I would say to that question. It's just about empowerment, really.
Thanks, Bridget, for coming on the show, and thanks for your intro. So my first question to you, I think it's probably a high-level question that we ask a lot of our guests. What made you pursue entrepreneurship versus going into the corporate world?
That's a great question, and actually someone else asked me that recently, I think a networking call. And I was looking back at the jobs that I have held, and it actually started with, let's go back to college. So I realized that I wanted this job in ministry, and they would give me a full ride to Notre Dame for my master's in Catholic theology. So what did I do? I took action and called them, sent in my resume, which only had Starbucks and a restaurant on it, and they called me in to interview me. And they said, you're only a sophomore. We can't hire you. And I said, I want to work for you, and I want a full ride to Notre Dame, and I could do anything you need me to do. And so that's how I got my first job. And they said, you make your hours. It was pretty much like entrepreneurship. You make your hours, you reimburse you for these things, you create your own programs. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I went into another job where I was a legal news reporter. You're like, how do those coincide? Well, you're stuck on ready to make moves, and when you need employment, you make it happen, right? And so I started with that job, but I said, by the way, can I have 2 weeks off during Christmas? I know I'm just starting. And so I was always trying to do business, even as an employee, on my terms, I noticed. And so if you're an employee looking right now where you're like, I'm always trying to do business and life on my terms, and I'm getting yeses from my employers, chances are you got a little bit of entrepreneurship in your blood. And so fast forward 10 years, I had my 3 boys. It's a wild, crazy ride. I live in a frat house, it feels like most days. And so I was a stay-at-home mom, essentially, just networking for mom stuff. And I lived a pretty bougie life. You guys know what bougie means?
Yeah, we found out from our last guest.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what my life looked like. And then, the 2020 evolution hit of the mass people freaking out, losing jobs, trying to figure out what to do next. And I was in that wave. And I was actually on my way to getting Zoom divorced. And then I moved out of my big, beautiful home into an apartment with my 3 young boys. Virtual school became a thing, which was pretty intense for most people, if you talk to any of them. I think that created the mental illness evolution as well. I mean, mean, if you were a parent with your kids stuck at home, it was pretty intense. And I don't say that lightly. A little bit of humor involved because, my kids were putting on 10 socks at a time and trying to walk around the house, and whatever. So in that time frame, I got a random Zoom business networking link while I'm sitting at home trying to figure out how to bring in income because my job in the seniors industry disappeared. And I showed up to this call at 8 a.m. on a Thursday morning. And this gentleman, Brian, goes, Bridget Hom, give your 30 seconds. And I'm like, dang it, he mispronounced my last name. What am I supposed to say? And Bridge to Freedom coaching was just a side hustle at the time. I had a total of 3 clients. And honestly, all I said was, Bridget Hom here at Bridge to Freedom Coaching. Are you ready to level up? And that's when the entrepreneurship journey began and all my programs were launched, motivational speaking, group sales trainings, the book stuck already. And well, here we are today, 3 years later.
Awesome. So take us through from that point in time, moving forward. What was kind of the first entrepreneurial initiative that you tackled?
Well, showing up to the Zoom call was definitely a big one. Showing up before you feel ready was the big thing I did, because if you wait until you are ready to be an entrepreneur, you'll never become one. So I had to fire fear, fire the negative what ifs. What if this doesn't work, right? And just jump into entrepreneurship with 2 feet. And so the next yes I had to say yes to was 2 gentlemen actually asked me to do a live show with them every week. And I'm like, absolutely. Did I have any idea what we were going to do or say or what I was going to talk about? Absolutely not. But I said yes before I felt ready. And then, can you do a 10-minute workshop for our networking group? Absolutely. I have no idea what I'm going to say to these people. And so saying yes to that next opportunity in front of me before I felt ready, that's really the basis of entrepreneurship, taking imperfect action.
I'd like to dive into this a little bit more and talk about maybe what self-talk is going on when this happens, when you're not feeling ready and an opportunity is presented to you. And I can think of probably a dozen people that I've talked to in the last year that have said, I want to run my own business, and then there's a what if. What if I get sued? What if I don't have insurance? What if? And so what were some ways that you dealt with that? And what have been some ways that you have helped your clients deal with that?
I always say we're typically in a relationship with our thoughts about people versus people themselves. And so you really need to make sure that you're hiring and firing the right mental team because you want to make deposits in your 3 accounts, your Serenity account, your Sanity account, and your real bank account. So what does that entail? Well, for me, it was, first of all, firing my feelings. Feelings aren't my friends because fear is always counteracted by action. And so I learned I started to brain dump, which was from my coaching business and my training. So that's what I give in my program. So I would sit and write for 2 minutes and just write out whatever is in my headspace so that it wouldn't come out in my actions. And so I'd give the paper those feelings. Number 2, I would really hone in on getting inside the person's head in front of me. Now that sounds a little weird. It's not like an alien experience. It's just trying to honor that person and create a space of radical self-acceptance for that person in front of me, no matter what. So it involved booking my calendar and then listening as much as possible and asking questions to get people to plug in so that I can just be in that energy. It's like, okay, I just want to empower this person with value. I want to add solutions to their life or their business right now. And so that's where I found my comfort zone. When I was able to help people, it was in the doing that helped me to start to get into the right being.
Very nice. Very nice. So I have one more follow-up question, then I'll kick it over to Ken. So as we were prepping for this interview, this is probably the one question I was most excited to ask. You have a very interesting perspective in that you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And oftentimes, Ken and I as entrepreneurs, sometimes our problems feel unique to us. However, I would think if you worked with a couple hundred entrepreneurs, there would be a couple of themes that tend to bubble up. And so what are those that tend to bubble up? And what would be some ways that you coach them through that?
How much time do we have to talk about 90-day Find Your Freedom program that you typically takes like 12 hours? Let me just try to condense this. Okay, so like you said, there are definitely some consistencies across the board for anyone who falls under the entrepreneurship umbrella. Number 1, it's becoming intentional because there's a never-ending to-do list in entrepreneurship that doesn't end until, you're dead or you have no job. So you have to establish a sense of intentionality. Doing a 2-minute brain dump in the morning, setting a 2-minute timer, and just writing out your headspace helps you to do that. So that's number 1. Number two, you have to develop a strategy to monetize your influence. And I always say this is the master list that I give everyone. You focus on number 1, your mindset programming, number 2, clients, number 3, prospects, number 4, prospecting, number 5, networking, and number 6, content creation. And that's on social media, email blasts, etc. So when you want to focus on that list and you want to set hours on your time frame, what honors you, what honors your roles and your goals. You see, now as an entrepreneur, you're responsible for this. So you want to set up a list of priorities based on your roles, not your goals. So we've already got the goals covered with the monetizing your influence list. Now you need to look at your roles and say, okay, what roles do I get to play every day? I have a mom role, I have a wife role, I have a Bridget role, I have a business owner role, and I have a coach role. I want to do one action step that honors each one of those each day. Because I find in entrepreneurship, when you get to that next level of success, business burnout happens because of not honoring those roles as just as important as your goals. So that's what I would say in a nutshell. If I were to try to condense everything, as an entrepreneur, you want to focus on those things and then taking imperfect action.
Yeah, I really like that. And balance, if we could sum all of it up, I think just keeping yourself in balance with all of the moving pieces of your life and kind of making sure you're speaking to all of them. I really like that. And it's absolutely crucial. Let's do a mock client call. And so you probably get this a lot. Maybe it's a client, someone you work with, they're maybe unsure of if they're going to be able to succeed. They're always questioning themselves. I think it's pretty common. And so what do you tell those clients or, the people that you work with when they say they don't have confidence in themselves? I don't know if I can attain this for myself and what is it going to take? How do you help them along it? So if we have listeners today on the show that are I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. What do you tell someone like that to help them overcome that block in their mind, if you will?
Typically, I ask them this question. If your life, your lifestyle, your business, what you're doing right now, and how you're showing up looks the exact same 20 years from now, will you be happy?
What do most people say?
If they're coming to me and they're on my calendar, it's typically I'm not happy.
Okay.
If they're problem aware and solution seeking already. However, if it's someone who's an employee and just trying to figure out if they're ready to take the leap, right? I typically ask them, can you see doing what you're doing right now for the next 20 years? And then, okay, why not? Right? Because you have to get people to see the whole picture because most people are just living a month out in their lives, right? They're not like the financial planners. They're not the long-term people. Most people are living in okay, if I quit my job and jump into entrepreneurship, can I survive for the next month to 3 months without any income, right? And then they're how would I even start making income? So that's where most people's headspaces are at. If they're employees thinking about jumping into entrepreneurship. Number 2, most people they disregard finding someone to help them jump into entrepreneurship. So if you really have no experience and you have to break free from the employee mindset and employee lifestyle and dive into the lifestyle and mindset of entrepreneurship, you really want someone who's gone before you and has done it successfully. Don't be afraid to ask someone their numbers. Don't be afraid to ask someone how much time did they invest in this. I always invested between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. to launch my business, and I got to a 6-figure income in the first year. And I'm not afraid to say what I did and what I didn't do and what works and what doesn't, where I messed up and where I succeeded. So having that influence that's real and raw is very helpful when you venture into entrepreneurship.
You've used the phrase employee mindset. And I think when you say that, I feel like I know what you're talking about. But can you give us a good working definition of that? And I have a follow-up question after we kind of define employee mindset.
Employee mindset is waiting on somebody else to give you the next right action.
Yes, I think that's a great, simple definition, and I like it. I agree with that. So it seems like people are programmed to kind of have this, and it can come from parents. It can come from friends, your peer group, but gosh, it really seems to sink its teeth in and really kind of overwhelm the way somebody thinks. There are certain people that I think probably are better off being an employee, that their life is better that way. But when you're talking about breaking out of that employee mindset, what's a good first step?
A good first step is to start to develop a vision of what your life looks like in a more and better setting. I say that in my book, More and Better. Nobody wants your product, message, or service, but everyone wants more and better. And you have to be convinced that what you have to offer is the more and better for them, right? So I would say start to nurture that vision of what you want and then entertain the ideas of entrepreneurship. Tim Ferriss has a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. Start doing your research. Entrepreneurs are really good at doing their organic market research. Start asking entrepreneurs what their life looks like, asking them what they're doing. So the best thing I could do, enlarge that vision of what you want your life to look like, and now start doing organic market research. Ask some entrepreneurs what they're doing. How's it working for them? How much money are they making? So you could start to see it as real and tangible for yourself.
So I want to kind of get into balance. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Now, for successful business owners, balance is an issue, right? And so you talked about we touched a little bit on it earlier. Based on your experience, what has been the most successful for achieving real balance? Now, like you mentioned the steps earlier, now doing that over a consistent period of time, or where do you see successful entrepreneurs reaching I don't want to say a perfect balance, but like a sustainable, happy place?
Well, I'll tell you another one of my strategies that I do in my program. It's called the 4 selves. And so you want to do something to honor your 4 selves every day. So emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and physical self. So once you focus on your top 5 priorities based on your roles, you do your brain dump to get intentional. I have a couple of other strategies along with the 4 selves. And you do all of these as actions that weave throughout your day, then you stay balanced. That's why the Stuck on Ready programming came to fruition. Because while I was creating and crafting my program, I was actually coaching people at the same time, coaching entrepreneurs and coaches at the same time. So I remember saying, you just got to hire and fire the right mental team. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I'm going to make that into a strategy. And so that's also one of the strategies in the Stuck on Ready mindset programming that all my entrepreneurs practice, because it helps to get them laser focused on doing action authentically and monetizing their influence. So you have to find a way, a method, honor yourself fully every single day so that you can be more empowering to the person in front of you, whether it be your spouse, a prospect, a client, a coworker even. I'm actually coaching employees right now. And the one thing, can I tell you one that I coach mostly entrepreneurs, but this recently, someone who's an employee said they wanted to work with me. So I'm not going to say no, because based on what they said, they wanted to focus on emotional intelligence. They wanted to be more empowering, inspiring, and as a speaker, there was a couple of other things. But after working with me through my 90-day program, I have so much energy. I just need to do something good with it. Like, I just feel so good about my life, myself. And I'm like, yes, you have become an empowerment generator. You're ready to create that culture of connectivity around you. Now we're going to the next phase, which is you have the energy and the mental awareness to go and empower the person in front of you. And that's where I want everyone to get to. And because it's important, if we all get to that place where we have that emotional intelligence, where, like, my favorite quote is by Aristotle, and it's the mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. And so we get to that place where we can entertain thoughts, we can observe versus absorbing our surroundings, and we can just look at opinions, objections, observe the world around us and be in alignment. Man, we're ready. We have lots of energy to share with the world and to serve others with solutions.
Okay, I like that. One follow-up question is, what is an example practice that you give your clients on honoring themselves? Like you said, you had mentioned, honor yourself every day. Like, are there sample practices? How do you do that?
Gosh. All right. The one, I have a ton, but one that I really would love for people who are listening to practice is self-validation. Self-validate your success. This is going to sound silly, guys, but do you like birthdays? Do you like your birthday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get my favorite dinner.
Hold on. What's your favorite dinner?
Steak.
Yes. Right. My son wants that for lunch every day. He's like, Mom, steak and rice. And like, dang it, I'm cooking at like 6 a.m. every morning. But I say self-validate your success. And so at the end of the day, you need to put blocks on your day as an entrepreneur. If you come from the employee setting, work's done at 5. You've sold yourself. I'm getting relief at this point in time. You're probably checking out around 4:15, realistically, right? I did it. And so you need to give yourself that setting where you're going to start making deposits into your Serenity account, your Sanity account, and your Success account, right? So you don't have a boss saying, hey, well done in entrepreneurship. You don't have coworkers celebrating you like, that was a really cool project. You did a great job. So you have to become your number one advocate for success. So I say get some birthday candles, and at night, at the end of the day, light a birthday candle, put it in steak or meatloaf or whatever you're going to cook. I don't care if you eat a cupcake, whatever it is, as long as it honors your health goals, right? I mean, put a candle, light it, and celebrate your wins. That's personal and professional. If you joined the 5 a.m. club for working out, celebrate that. If you got a new client that day, celebrate that. If you prospected well and created 20 new connections on LinkedIn, celebrate that. If your children are all alive today, celebrate that, you know? I mean, there's so many things that you can celebrate. I celebrate running water. Okay. Like, yes, we're not struggling with that, but I still will be grateful for the simple things. And self-validating your success is part of being grateful for the things that you have, people in your life, as well as finding something to feel successful about.
I really like that. I really like that answer. Be getting out the birthday candles. And
That right in the ribeye.
absolutely. Before we move on from this topic of balance, one thing I want to talk about, and I think a lot of our listeners, if you have children, you probably relate to this. When you're going to a job and you're an employee, generally have someone telling you when you can come in and leave. Like it's not your own decision. As an entrepreneur, you make your own schedule. And I think from an outsider looking in, it's a lot different than when you're actually in it. Like I've seen this coffee cup that says, I'm self-employed, so I get to pick which 60 hours I work every week. Oh, there you go. Yeah, CEO. So for those just tuning in, Bridget just held up a coffee mug that says CEO of my life. And so once you get out of employee mindset into being an entrepreneur and you have children, you're torn with this. I've got 2 sons and I would like to fish with them for 40 hours a week. And we would all be happy doing that, but there'd be no income coming in. So that's a problem. It's probably, just speaking personally, it's probably one of the things that is most challenging to me about being an entrepreneur was when I had a job, I was like, I want to quit this job so I can spend more time with my kids. Now that I'm on the other side of this, ultimately my decision, but you feel pressure from employees. And so any pro tips on managing this balance?
As a mom, I could definitely relate to this. One of my driving forces for continuing in entrepreneurship and not looking back was I wanted to pick them up from the school bus. And no matter what, I was going to make this happen. And there were days where, I'm like, this person said they'd work with me if I'd work with them at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And I did that a couple times. And I was always, the truth is I was grateful to empower them, but it didn't honor all my roles. I hired resentment on my mental team against myself. And so it was hard. So you have to figure out where that alignment is. And also as an entrepreneur, we don't usually talk about this. Our businesses are exciting to us. We love them. They're very gratifying. Sometimes at home, it's not. You've got the never-ending to-do list at home as well. And, children aren't as grateful as clients or, happy clients, right? They're just not. Your spouse is not as excited to see you as, say, someone who you just gave like golden nuggets to, right? They're just not. And so it's really about balancing like, okay, this is exciting. This is an exciting world that we live in entrepreneurship. It's like, there's this other world too that I'm a part of. And so that transition is really important to establish for yourself. And so I worked with a couple of people in the real estate world. You know how that's all consuming, right? My husband's a loan originator. I got married in the Zoom business networking world, actually. I met him in a meeting. Yes. So, but sometimes business tends to call at the wrong time when you're trying to honor your other roles. And how do we balance that? How we balance that personally is we put our cell phones, everything away at the dinner table. We have dinner time. And even if you don't have kids, have that established dinner time with your spouse or your partner, because it's important to be intentional about your roles just as much as you are with your goals. And when you're intentional with both, you'll find that you monetize your influence better and faster because you have that energy directed towards a specific activity. And just being intentional makes you more effective. Set that time, set the dinner time. Also, be intentional about certain activities. And if you have to work later hours, be intentional about working a little less tomorrow or something along those lines. I mean, I know I give my kids iPads sometimes, okay? And I'm like, Mommy just has to do a couple things on social media. And then I'm like, always ask myself, I'm like, okay, how am I going to make up for this, right? So it is, I'm not going to say it's not a battle some days because it is. But in the world of entrepreneurship, we're not alone in that. So if you feel this way right now, you're not alone. We just have to do the best we can possible and show up authentically.
I like that. I think there's a lot of really good lessons in there for people with kids and without kids, people with relationships. But I think that's really, really solid advice.
I'm really excited we're talking about this topic today because, a lot of times, we dig into business stuff. We look at numbers. We look at all this stuff. But we sometimes overlook mindset or our schedule, our happiness, all of these things, which is very impactful on everything else. And so I'm just excited this topic is here today. So my next question, being an engineer, my partner always makes fun of me. She's like, she's like, you're so brilliant. You're so smart on figuring out all these things, but your EQ is very low. Bridget, can you define what is emotional intelligence in business for the listeners?
Well, honestly, I'd say the fastest way I could describe it is by that quote that I shared earlier. The mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. It's your ability to observe versus absorb, to stop living under the influence of circumstances, environments, situations, objections, opinions, and obstacles, and just laser focus on your destination of your future successful self. So it's your ability to keep your eye on the ball and stop living under the influence of all of the things around you that absolutely don't serve you in serving the person in front of you or being true to yourself.
So it'd be like creating goals, having a vision, creating goals around that, and then just heading straight towards that and cutting out all the noise.
100%.
So, Ken, you're not the only one who's gotten that feedback from their partner. I also have some feedback I've received from my partner, also from people I've worked with, is that I'm very direct, which sometimes is not a good mark of someone with high emotional intelligence. Ken, you're laughing because you're thinking of 10 scenarios where I always want people to know exactly where I stand, so I tell them exactly what I'm thinking, and that's not always the move. And so for people that may recognize that they have a deficit in emotional intelligence, are there any books or any training tools that may be helpful in improving this?
Yeah, there's this book. I heard it hit bestseller on Amazon, and it actually will help with entrepreneurship as well, because it's about mastering the successful entrepreneur mindset, breaking free from self-sabotage, and accessing your limitless potential. I've heard there's some strategies in there that can help you practice emotional intelligence. The woman on the cover looks really a lot like me, and she may have the same last name. And I've actually had people say they use this as their business Bible in dealing with people, because business and people are synonymous. And so for many people who are venturing into entrepreneurship where emotional intelligence is not their strong point, you're going to want to focus on cultivating that relatability and that ability to be relationship centric. Because, and you can look up relationship centric words, you can cultivate the ability to be an active listener. That's also a part of emotional intelligence, and developing high levels of self-awareness. The brain dump, as I mentioned, is very helpful for that, because after you do your brain dump, you would want to ask yourself, what do I notice about myself? Emotionally intelligent people are highly self-aware so that then they could be others aware. But if you want to kind of look emotionally intelligent, but maybe you're still struggling with it, say things like, what I love about what you just said, or say things like, notice something about someone and then point it out. Compliment someone. Tell a story. People with high emotional intelligence are always focused on relatability, making people feel like you can connect well with them.
I like that. And in your response, you alluded to your book, and I let's get into that. So what would be the perfect candidate for somebody who wants to buy your book, or what type of audience is this geared towards?
Specifically, people who have ventured into entrepreneurship or are employees looking to venture into entrepreneurship. This also serves the coaches and consultants as well. So sometimes you don't put coaches under that umbrella of entrepreneurship, but the truth is they are. Anyone who's doing business on their terms, you have to learn how to sell, brand, market yourself, and get to the right mindset. That is an entrepreneur. So this book has strategies for branding, sales, marketing, powerful prospecting, and then communication strategies to help you to show up more emotionally intelligent in your business and your life. I referenced Dr. Seuss in here as well. If anyone likes Dr.
That's awesome. I love Dr. Seuss. David, did you want to cover any other topics before we get into the fire round?
Yes, I do. When we were trading emails prior to the show, you mentioned that you had a gift for our listeners. So can you tell the listeners what that is and how they can access it?
Absolutely. They can actually get my book for free, plus shipping, at stuckonready.com. So if you're ready to venture into entrepreneurship, or you'd like to explore what that looks like, then this book is definitely going to be a coaching session for you. It's going to be the cheapest, most cost-effective coaching session you ever have, and you have it forever. And so it's stuckonready.com, and you can look into entrepreneurship for yourself and what limitless potential could look like for you.
Awesome. And to all of our listeners that are driving, keep your eyes on the road. We will post that in the show notes. Let's get into the fire round.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bridget, on all of our guests, whenever we bring them on, we run them through the ringer with what's called the fire round. Are you ready? All right. What is your favorite book?
Oh gosh. Think and Grow Rich by
I love that one.
Oh, so many gold nuggets. It's like never ending.
That's a wealth. What are your hobbies?
Salsa dancing, worship leading, problem solving, anything involving nature except camping.
No camping?
No, I'm not. Do I look like a camper? I'm like, glamping sounds nice, but no, and where I can be outside for a minimum amount of time and then go back. I want to sleep inside.
What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
Gosh, I still get like a physical response from working for someone. One thing I don't miss, having someone tell me what to do and when I need to do it, and limiting the amount of ways that I could help their business grow.
I like that one. All right, last one. What do you think sets apart successful entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
The number one thing we have in common with the Elon Musks of the world, and the Jeff Bezos and all of that, we all have the same amount of time. We have 168 hours in a week, 24 hours in a day. We all have that in common. What we don't have in common is our ability to keep our eye on the ball, to partner with our future successful selves, and to literally just disregard any obstacles, objections, or opinions, and just laser focus. You know, when I got Zoom divorced, you know, I had some people say, "Why don't you just go get a job, Bridget? Like, you have 3 boys, just go get a job. Go get a simple job." You know, my family's like, "We'll help you. We'll take care of you. We'll do all these things. What is this coaching thing you're doing? Like, come on, you really think you're going to succeed?" And I didn't justify myself to them. I kept that inner voice strong and saying, no matter what, you are going to hit limitless potential, because success is not just possible, it's inevitable when you keep your eye on the ball. So what is that destination that you need to focus on? So that's what I would say. Focus on that destination.
Excellent answer.
Bridget, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast. If people are interested in working with you through your coaching program, what would be the best way to get in touch?
BridgetHom.me is my direct calendar link. BridgetHom. I do trainings, free trainings every Friday. So if they want access to that, find me on LinkedIn, say training or free training. You can find me anywhere really in the world of social media. Just make sure you type in Bridget Hom, not Bridget Horn, Hom, H-O-M. But BridgetHom.me goes directly to my calendar for you to start becoming problem aware and solution seeking, and figure out if entrepreneurship is for you, or level up where you're at in your entrepreneurship journey.
Awesome. Well, very nice. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to staying in touch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Bridget.
Thanks for watching this video. If you got some value out of this, would you please hit the like and subscribe button? This is a free way to support the show, and it really helps us build our audience.